Welcome back to the Talking Walls podcast, reacting today to the narrow defeat at Liverpool, but of course lots to talk about in that game. My name is Dave as a party, and alongside me today we've got Mr. Jordan Russell and Finn Morris returning to the podcast. Jord, how are you keeping?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Keeping busy. Birthday tomorrow, so looking forward to it. But we'll see how the week goes. Off to Paris tomorrow, so could be an interesting one. Finn, what about you? How's things?
Yeah, all good, thank you. There's loads of people's birthdays this week, Dave. What happened 9 months ago? I was just thinking as you said it. I'm sorry, is there like you're not a Valentine? Well, it's basically by Valentine's, so you're not a Valentine's baby, are you? I can't think.
I don't know
So many birthdays at the moment. I don't know. But happy birthday for tomorrow.
Thank you very much. You boys both went to Anfield. How was it? Enjoyed it? The day itself? We'll obviously talk about the game.
I'll be honest, it's the first time the M6 has been cleared both ways going to Anfield in recent years. Usually you get stuck one way or another. I remember the league game when we played there in the midweek, not long after the knocks out of the FA Cup, and I swear that it took about 5 hours to get home just because the M6 was like gridlock. So no, that the positive, the performance was a relative positive, but actually the most positive thing that happened yesterday was no traffic on the M6, which I was quite happy about.
Did we go to that game, Finn? We went to a midweek.
The midweek one, yeah. I was
We
saying
lost
to my dad,
2-0,
we lost. It was only because my dad was saying, "Is this game yesterday?" He was saying, "Is it the first one we've actually had something riding on it?" Because normally we're there having a party, aren't we, or just like wallowing in their misery. But I said no, that midweek one would have technically had something on it. I mean, yeah, we lost again anyway. Haven't had many happy memories of Anfield, and yeah, on the M6, it's almost like there's not many of them in Liverpool, isn't there? Every time I've got the train to Liverpool, it's full of Liverpool fans from Stafford. It's crazy. But no, yeah, it was a decent journey in and out. So that probably was a positive. That sums up the match going experience yesterday. I think it's worn off, hasn't it? Now we've been in the Premier League long enough that it doesn't have the glitz anymore. It's a little bit, here we go again. Then be a few dodgy decisions and a loss, and we'll put the fries in the bag. I think it's one of those.
Anfield's just. I mean, there's all sorts of stats. I think Liverpool are the sort of highest. Well, the team that we just have the lowest percentage of wins from, I think, out of any Premier League opposition. So I think Anfield in general is just one of those places. I think if you've never been before, obviously it's worth going because it's Anfield. But I think, when you play United away or even Spurs away or Chelsea, you always think, we've got a chance of getting a result here. Even City, we've done a couple of times at the Etihad, you know what I mean? So, it's one of those. But I suppose it's always a bonus when you can get home and back. Quite straightforward. Blackburn was one last week. Just nice straight run. I think especially after a defeat with Liverpool, you're stuck in traffic for 3 or 4 hours. It just does your head in, doesn't it? So it's tricky game though, lads. I mean, we knew it was going to be difficult, and I think there was worries that maybe Wolves, although not that we've shown many signs of it in the last couple of weeks, but could be embarrassed because Liverpool haven't been at the best. Something could have clicked for them, but a pretty positive performance despite the defeat. George, we'll start with you. Team lineup, pretty much what I expected. I think it's exactly what I predicted. Obviously, we'll talk about the likes of Sarabia and Gedge later on in the podcast, but that's pretty close to how I would have expected Vitor to line us up.
Yeah, I think so, especially after. I felt like that was definitely sort of our best front three on paper with everyone that was available before we kicked the ball. Andre and Gomez, yes, yeah. I think people were shouting for Manetzi to start and all that stuff, and I just felt very premature. Although he had a good cameo at Blackburn, I think he actually did all right yesterday as well when he come on at half time. I wasn't too shocked with the lineup at all, to be honest with you. I did think we'd also see maybe the other, the new lad coming at the back as well to play next to Agbadu and Totti, but also as well, Premier League debut at Anfield probably isn't the place to have a debut, to be honest with you, either. So, yeah, and all in all, I wasn't too shocked really with that starting 11.
Yeah, I think with Giga again. I said it last week against Blackburn. When Doc had come on for Bueno, I think Giga, that would have been a good chance to introduce him. And then yesterday, obviously, Agbadu got injured and Bueno came on ahead of him. So I think it shows clearly at the moment Wolves are just going to take it very, very slow in terms of introducing him. But first half, Finn, I mean, it was obviously it felt almost like a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde performance from Wolves. Quite poor in the first half, but very good in the second half. Let's get out of the way. The refereeing performance, you were both there, so you would have been in and amongst the atmosphere and sort of reacting in real time. a really questionable refereeing performance. And I said it on my reaction. Obviously, you guys wouldn't have heard it, but the Wolves were getting the players, Matt Doherty especially, was getting really frustrated with the decisions from the referee. And it wasn't that he wasn't giving the correct fouls, because I think he was, but he just kept letting Liverpool off with the bookings. Jamie Carragher on the comms made a comment saying, "Oh, Wolves are getting frustrated because they're not getting the fouls go their way." We were, but just the bookings, weren't coming out. There was one where I think Gedge actually started a counter-attacking move and got fouled, and it found its way to Cunha, and the ref played advantage. For me, I cannot believe he didn't go back and give a booking for that. I think it was Van Dijk, that one was.
That's why.
Yeah, exactly. But then there were two or three. What was your thoughts on that thing, sort of in and around the ground? Because it was such a poor refereeing display from Simon Hooper.
Yeah, I was hot yesterday. I was hot-headed. If I'd have had to have done the match review, I'd have said a lot more than I would say now. In and around me, to be fair, it was a bit. We'll talk about the atmosphere overall, but there wasn't too much vitriol towards the referee. I was probably bringing most of it, and then sort of shocked that no one else was around me. There was a group of lads in front that were just there for a laugh. They just kept taunting Szoboszlai for having size 7 feet. It was dead funny, and it's sort of I don't know. They just kept picking. Someone said, "You know, he's size 7," and the whole game they're going at him, so that sort of distracted from the misery. But yeah, it was. I thought that was my first one where I thought, what is going on here? And I think you go in with preconceived ideas, don't you? Because we've seen so many shockers away at Anfield. I don't think there was in that midweek one. That's probably the only one where there's been nothing. So you go in expecting something, and it's all those sort of ones where if that game yesterday was Liverpool-Arsenal and they'd gone Liverpool's way, then it'd be media outrage. But it's sort of they were the decisions that are normally in a Saturday 3:00 that get swept under the carpet. And I'd expected a little bit more because we were on TV, but because it was sort of, it's Wolves and their decisions that can be argued either way. I've seen some quotes from Dermot Gallagher this morning trying to excuse them all. And the one saying that Agbadou, if anything, knocked Diaz off balance, mate.
What is he on about?
I know. I haven't seen the clip myself. I've just seen the quote. So I'd love to see it, but I know you and Matt and Jord have always discouraged me from my David Icke like conspiracy theories, and I think when any other fan of any other club does it, I'm like, oh, that's pathetic. And you get wrapped up in your own club, but there was some yesterday where I think it's inarguable that there's an Anfield factor, and then people around me are going, oh, he's intimidated. I was going, what are you intimidated by? It's silent. It's the weirdest culmination of events, but we've got unlucky on a lot of them. I don't think any of them are absolute howlers. How he can watch Jota dive 10 times over in 4K and then not book him for simulation. Whether it's a quirk of the rules, I don't know. I'm not fully sure on that one, but there's a few where you go, what are we doing here? What's the point?
There was one in the, I can't remember his first, I think it was Gravenberch, skipped past João Gomez and sort of jumped over his leg, no contact, and he gave a foul against us. But I mean, we'll touch on the first goal, Diaz there, because there's a few bits to unpick here, George. I think obviously the main talking point is whether it's a foul or not on Emmanuel Agbadou. Obviously Diaz ends up getting the better of him, goes through and goal. Sarr comes and obviously it takes him down. It's one of those. I think Agbadou probably has to do more to get the foul in real time. I think he does have to go down. In my opinion, I would be really, really disappointed if that was given as a foul against me. We see it so many. One player that used to get done for it a lot was Fabio Silva. He used to spin a defender all the time, and he would always get done for the faintest of touches on the defender. So I think I would have been angry if say, for argument's sake, Cunha did that and Van Dijk. It would have been given a foul if it was Van Dijk, like you say, Finn. But I would have been upset about that. And then obviously Diaz goes through a goal, and Sarr does have this thing where I think he's given away the most penalties out of any goalkeeper already this season. He had a bit of a spell of it last year. He's come out, and Diaz is going nowhere in my opinion. The touch is awful. Diaz knows exactly what he's doing because he was, as soon as he plays that ball, he's not getting to it. It's gone out for a goal kick, but obviously he invites that contact, and Sarr comes rushing out. I mean, so much to unpick there. In my opinion, I think it would have been harsh to give the foul on Agbadou, although by the letter of the law, it probably is. But I think afterwards, especially when the referees let the play run, it probably isn't. Contradicting myself. But what do you think, Jord?
So, like, in the ground, obviously, the first goal, we're already 1-0 down at this point, right? And I think, actually, my view of it was that it appeared to me Diaz had put two hands in the back of Agbadou. And I agree, you've got to be cuter as Agbadou because, like you say, a seasoned veteran would have just flopped to the floor and he'd have got the free kick. Now, again, I would argue the same thing is, can Luis Diaz push someone of the stature of Emmanuel Agbadou over. Probably not, but you've got to milk it for what it is, right? And I think I thought it was 2 hands in the back, and I looked at my phone at half time, and one of my Liverpool friends, he messaged me saying it's exactly the same as the one on Konate in the week where Tarkovsky scored.
yeah.
So it's like, well, I actually thought that was a foul in midweek, so I was like, okay, so I must be just. I thought it was a bit of a foul. I don't want to be too critical of Jose Sarr because I've been a lot on this podcast, but this is the sort of thing where I'm like, this is why I'm critical of him, because he just comes out, and Luis Diaz knows full well that Jose Sarr is going to come out, not have the brakes on, and just completely just let him, whether Diaz initiated the contact or not, Sarr could have just stood up. Just stand just be a bit cuter with it. Like, just stand up and if he takes around you and scores, fair enough, but it just comes in like a raging bull, just fucking sliding. It's just, it's a penalty. As soon as that happens, it's a penalty. My only thing was, like you say, is it a foul now? We do, and I think arguably yeah, because he's nudged him off balance. But again, I think the other way around, you'd be fuming. So I can't be too concerned about that decision. I think out of everything yesterday, when it comes to Simon Hooper's performance, that was the least of of the sort of contentious things for me. There's some that are, watching the ground, you're getting so frustrated with the inconsistencies of break. I mean, we stopped them in transition a few times, and every time we did, we got a booking. Like you say, the Gravenberch one, there was a Van Dijk one. There was definitely one as well in the second half, Salah as well.
Yeah.
Around the 75th, and then he starts gesturing and throwing his arms and raising his arms and gesturing towards Simon Hooper. That's a yellow card as well.
Worse. That was worse than what Doc and Agbadou did.
Agbadou did. Yeah, exactly that.
The Doc one, he was obviously frustrated because what he was saying was, it's happened 3 times where we've got them on the break now. They've taken or pulled us back over, and you've given absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And then the Konate, when he eventually did book Konate, he pointed. He goes 1, 2, 3. That's the 4th one. But mate, he should have been booked after the first one.
Yeah, he should have. Yeah.
And then obviously the sort of the big talking point was right before half time, where obviously they both go up for a header. Konate's so late, and obviously takes, I think it's Cunha out, free kick on the edge of the area. Again, I'm bringing them up. Jamie Carragher on com saying, they've both just gone up for the header. But you watch the replays, Konate was so late. And obviously Arne Slot made the decision. I think he admitted to why he made that decision at full time was because they knew that he was on a tightrope. For me, Jord, I think he's so lucky not to be sent off there. And it's a completely different game because you go into half time, 2-0 down, but you're against 10 men and we performed the way that we played in the second half. Wolves would have had every chance to get back in the game.
Yeah, and that literally happened right in front of me. And actually, I thought, watching it live in the ground, I thought it was worse than what it was. And I'm saying this in a way of, it's definitely still a second booking, but I actually thought it was like a head collision. I thought he went head to head and literally just missed the ball, wiped him out, and I'm like, well, you've got to go here. And actually, it looks like on the replay it's more of a his head to shut. It wasn't as high as I thought it was. It's still still late, still high, and it's still it's a booking every day of the week. So he should have been sent off by the letter of the law. And I think Arne Slot's clever in the way of protecting his players. And I know, and just because I watched the game, it was when Liverpool played Ipswich, first game of the season. Konza started that game and he was on a yellow and whatever, and Slot straight away takes him out. And I think actually listening to some of his commentary, some of his thoughts post the game, I think he realised, I think he's actually, without saying it, he's like, I think we've got away with one there. I think he knows that, and I generally do. I generally think he did. And unfortunately, again, I know I don't like this conspiracy theory that does go around, but what I do always admit to is there definitely has to be some unconscious bias in there, because I think how we performed in the second half and how the momentum was 11 versus 11. I think we were well worth a point yesterday. If they'd have been down to 10 men, it's a whole different game, a whole different atmosphere. And in Anfield, I'm not sure if you come across on the telly, but as soon as Cunha scored, it was so I don't think I've been to Anfield and heard so much apprehension around the fact, because they're obviously going for the league and they'll probably win it, and fair play to them. But we had them going for a good 45 minutes, and that for me is the biggest credit we can take from yesterday. We didn't get the knockout blow, but we definitely had them on the ropes for a large part of that game.
Yeah, I think it's the first time since Opta started taking records that Liverpool have failed to have a shot on goal in a half of football. I don't know if it's all full stop or just at Anfield, but in itself, it's an incredible stat that Wolves have managed to do that. Finn, we haven't mentioned the first goal yet. Again, there's a little bit to unpick with this one. I think it's Doc. I think it's Jota on the halfway line. I think he has to do a little bit better to make sure he wins that duel. And then the ball comes out. And I've seen a few people point the blame at Totti Gomez for this one. Obviously, he sticks his foot at it, and it sort of ends up going to Diaz, who eventually sort of bundles it into the back of the net. But what were your thoughts on that one? Because it was quite a frustrating way to concede an opening goal, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know how far down you were, Jord, but I was saying to Dave, I think I was like row 9. So that goal to me was a blur. I didn't have a clue what was going on down there. And then I thought, God, I'm coming on the podcast and I don't have a clue what happened. I watched it again. And I'm still watching it once. I still don't really know what's happened.
I was row 5 as well. It's one of those things where, and literally right behind the goal net. So you can see like a bit of a melee and stuff, and then all of a sudden, like you can just hear like a bit of a roar from like the top end, and you're like, "Oh, it's gone in." And I had to watch it back today to understand.
Yeah,
it was like pinball, wasn't it? And then I don't actually know how it's ended up in the back of the net. Still, to be honest with you,
it was a bit like Blackburn, Dave. You know the João Gomez goal. I know it took everyone like 3 seconds to be. It was obviously the opposite feeling, but it's like, oh, it's gone in. I said, okay. Yeah. But no, yeah, I guess you've seen it a few times over. And I've seen people putting the blame everywhere, so I guess it's not solely on one person. It's just maybe a typical Wolves defensive performance.
Yeah, because Matt had put in our group chat saying like, "What is Totti doing?" I said, "I think it starts a lot earlier than that. I think Doc has got to be so much better because I think Vitor made comments pre-match that he didn't want to just go to Liverpool and park the bus and defend, which is fair enough. And I thought we did that, and it gave Liverpool a scare. So our defensive line was quite high, and Liverpool got in, behind a few times, like the Diaz goal, obviously where Agbadou was unfortunate. But I think if Doc is stronger and wins that duel against Jota, I think the whole thing doesn't happen. And I think with Totti had such a strange performance because I think other than that one where he sort of stuck his foot out at it and it could go anywhere, and he's quite unfortunate it's landed at the feet of Diaz. I think if you were a neutral watching that game, you'd think, what is he doing? Because I know we talk about Levi Jeans, man of the match, where he's got his Timberlands on it or whatever. He looked like that at times, but pretty much whatever came his way, he stopped other than that, to be honest. And he does it in an unorthodox way, and you'll see people label him as Bambi on ice or whatever. But again, I thought he showed a pretty solid performance. I think the one question mark I had over him other than that was when Salah scored and it was offside. He just couldn't quite get his body in the right position.
No, that was yeah. I was said to my old man, I was like, the one thing you don't do is show Salah on his left foot. And as soon as he's cutting on, I was like, what is he doing?
He just couldn't get get control of his body. It was like
he gave him a couple of yards of space as well. And as soon as he cut, it went goal, and it literally hit the. Well, thankfully it was offside, but I was like, you can't do that. But I say, same as you, I thought actually on the whole, he defended really well, and especially against Salah. And I know, like you can say, he was playing more so up against Aitnery. Actually, Aitnery's that high. I think Totti was pretty much one-on-one with Salah a lot of the time, and I think he handled him really well.
Aitnery always has. I mean, he always, always dealt with Salah quite well. And we go to half time, and like we've already said, the second half was so much better from Wolves. Key moment really with the changes that Vitor made. We saw Sarabia and Engage come off. We saw Menetzi and Jean-Ric de Bellegarde come on. Bellegarde in a slightly more advanced position. But it's crazy what a couple of weeks can do, Finn, for somebody that's really, really struggled. He's had 2 pretty good games, one against Villa and obviously one against Blackburn, and now playing in a position much further up. He just looks a lot better straight away, didn't he, Bellegarde? And I think fans are now starting to get onto his side a little bit more, which is what Vitor pleaded and wanted just a few weeks ago. And fans sort of stuck their nose up at it. But I think he's right. You support your players, you give them a chance, and all of a sudden, the attitude and the morale of players can change.
Yeah, and I thought that Villa performance was truly down to the move in position, because I hadn't seen much of him before we signed him. But by all accounts, he'd been pretty much played out of position 99% of the time at Wolves to where he really shone. So I thought that Villa performance, it was purely just a different position. And then when he came on in that sort of right attacking midfield area, I thought, oh, not again. But to be fair, it must have, as well as position change, Vitor seemed to have lit something up in him as well. So he's very good. I don't think I've ever seen him try flicks like that, even for the assist. I think he tried one.
That's a lovely
He
little
flicked
assist.
Manetzi through as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
With a little one that was a little bit different. So he's clearly unlocked something in him, and I'm really, really excited. So I thought that one was it was probably a little 5 million sale. No one really bats an eyelid at in the summer, but maybe he's a gem. It's just taking a little bit longer. He's not young, is he? I think we signed him when he's 25, 26, is he? I wouldn't even know what he is.
26, 27 maybe.
So coming into his prime now, and I'm liking where it's going. Albeit he's not going to be a world beater, but they've really unlocked.
Yeah, but he's gone now from almost like a squad player to somebody who can. Well, over the last few weeks, obviously there's still a long way to go, and still some. I'm sure there's still some doubters out there, but he's gone from like just a squad player to someone that can come onto the pitch and make an impact. And he's now got a role in the team. I think is that holding midfielder. I think he's ahead of Bubakar. He's ahead of Tommy Doyle probably in that holding midfield position now as well, which shows how well he's done.
He's gone from, Dave, if you put in a noise on it, if he was coming on at Molineux, it would have been, ugh. Now it's like okay.
A few little claps around there. Yeah, exactly. Marshall Manetzi as well came on. One of the most interesting players I think we've had at Wolves for some time, George. He came on against Blackburn, and I described him last week on the podcast as he's going to be a bit like a bull in the china shop. Weirdly, he played a lot at Blackburn. You could sort of see he was up and down. He did that yesterday at Anfield, but pretty much he was the false nine. He was the man up top yesterday, and he had a golden opportunity. Finn, you alluded to it earlier, where Bellegarde flicks him through. It's a one-on-one, and look, I think what he does is the right finish, but I think Allison makes a good save. But he has had some people disappointed with him for that, and already. For me, he's a midfielder. He's not a forward. So, I can't be expecting him to put every single one of those chances away. But saying that, he had, I don't want to say clear cut. He definitely had one clear cut chance against Blackburn. He had 2 or 3 half chances. But I mean, for me, it's quite promising that he's getting in those sort of areas, though, Jord.
Yeah, and that's within like what, and 90-minute data set. Really, he had a full half against Blackburn and a full half against. Did he have a full half against Blackburn?
He came about half an hour, 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, so like we're talking about a guy that we've seen for less than 90 minutes. Then, I likened him the other day to the Zimbabwean Dave Edwards.
Yeah.
So shout out Dave Edwards. I saw him in the away end yesterday as well. But yeah, like in terms of just. There's one thing as a footballer that I think is just so like natural in a way of like you can't really teach it, and it's just being in the right place at the right time. And I've already seen enough of him to go. You know what? He's going to get a load of chances if you put him up in the final third of the pitch, and whether he's got the ability or not to finish more of those or not, time will tell. But if he had, again, like I say, with a lot of these players, he wouldn't be at Wolverhampton Wanderers if he had. So we've got to probably take the rough with the smooth with it. But I think he's impressive. I still, like I say, don't quite know what he is in a way of. I think there's still to be determined. I'm not necessarily sure that what I've seen so far he can play in the 2 in terms of what Andre and go. I haven't seen that yet. Where I think he could get on the ball and dictate a game and whatever. But I think he gives you an option where if you do want to put a third one in there and be up and down a little bit like what Dendoncker was under Nuno, where sometimes we go to the 5-3-2 and you put Dendoncker in there just to basically support, like say, get up and down, support between the lines in the transition. I think that Manetzi could be that guy for us, and he's big, physical, imposing. He looks like a real specimen, and I think he's going to help us in both boxes on set pieces as well. So yeah, what I've seen so far, I really like it. I think it'll be interesting to see how we utilise him and where he sort of plays, or if he plays when we're playing against teams where we're going to probably have or expect to have more of the ball, because I would imagine, with Strand Larson coming back next week as well, we hope, touch wood, that he'll be back. If you do then go to a Cunha, Strand Larson, and one other, where does Manetzi fit in? Does he come into that still? I'm not sure, but so far I've been quite impressed with it.
Yeah, interesting. I think everyone would have. He's probably got the build more of a holding midfielder, George. But I think you're right. I think the technical ability still needs to. There's still a couple of question marks on that for me. I think he struck that finish yesterday a lot better than the one against Blackburn, because I remember went through on goal and he, like I said last week, he just like I don't know what went through his mind, but he completely scuffed it last week. But he's picking up those nice positions. But I do agree with you. I think if you want someone to cause havoc, which we sort of needed in that second half, we needed someone to wake us up a little bit, and it worked quite well. Finn, obviously, Manetzi and Bellegarde came on for Sarabia and Gedge. Again, there's quite a few people disappointed with their contributions and performances. Just too hot and cold, both of them for me. I think some weeks I look at Sarabia and I think, this is the player that we signed from PSG. We played a great ball through for Bellegarde against Villa. Can make a real impact. Gedge as well. I thought Villa, he was brilliant, but just unlucky with a couple of the finishes. But again, yesterday, just really, really struggled to have an impact on the game.
Yeah, I don't think, and please shout if you can prove me wrong, but I can't think of a big 6 away or even like a top 10 away game where Sarabia's shone. And for me, I'd have probably gone, captain hindsight, but I would have said it to someone I'd have had a witness. I'd have probably gone for a midfield 3 with Manetzi in there and started like that. But I'd have still had Gedge and Cunha up front.
Yeah.
And I think when Strand Larsen's back, that could be a real way to go forward. It's almost like Nuno used to alternate between that 3. And then if we're playing someone bottom of the league, you could go with the 3 up front and drop him. But anyway, yeah, on those 2, you sort of knew that Sarabia performance was coming just for the type of game it was. It's not like he doesn't try. It's just sometimes like was it the one that led to the penalty where he just got shrugged off the ball dead easily? I remember
Probably,
it was a turnover that led to one of the goals.
It was the first goal, wasn't it?
Was it the first
I think
goal?
the turnover where he had Semedo on the overlap, and it was like a simple, I'd say it was a simple 5-yard pass, and Van Dijk read it, and everyone could see what he was trying to do. And again, like I'm a fan of Sarabia. I think he gives you something different than other people do. I think that ball against Villa, not many players in our squad plays that sort of pass. But it's hard to stick up for him when the simple thing, like yesterday, he just had a poor game.
Yeah.
And it's hard to stick up for him. I think some of the criticisms way over the top for him and Gedge as well.
Gedge made some really promising runs in behind that we were getting ignored yesterday.
We were playing too direct. Well, for me, anyway, for Gedge yesterday, we were playing too many straight balls, direct balls, where you got Canate and Van Dijk, who are both 6'5" minimum, like brutes of blokes. Like, what's the point? You might as well have like stuck one of us up top against them two. Playing that sort of tactic would have been able to do the same thing, which should have been fuck all. And that's sort of, I don't think that was on Gedge at all. And I think he's better.
Finn's forward abilities, mate.
No, I've seen Finn's. To be fair, I did see Finn's forward abilities, and he can hold the ball up. To be fair to him,
also miss it from 3 yards as well.
Yeah, miss it. Yeah,
but that's the beauty. I would never have got the chance, so I'd have actually looked better.
But it's like one of those things where I think almost. I don't think Gedge is. And again, this isn't a shock. I don't think he's physically the most physical footballer, and I almost feel he's better playing out wide where he can make those sort of runs. And when he's got his back to goal, and you go like say you got Canate and Van Dijk up your arse, Van Dijk up your arse. He's got no chance. So I think some of the criticism seen online, it just didn't work really in that first half with the tactic. And like I say, I will always stick up for Sarabia where I feel it's right, but actually. He had a poor game yesterday, and he's a lot better than that.
Definitely. I mean, we look at the positives, though, lads. I know we've sort of pointed at the things that went wrong, but in terms of the second half, it was a much, much better performance from Wolves. I still feel like maybe we didn't test Alisson as much as we should have with how well we were in control. But Finn, I look at that finish by Matheus Cunha, and it's 3 goals in 3 now. Looks to me, and I was quite vocal about how disappointed I was in him after the Chelsea and the Arsenal games. But it looks like now the window's shut, the contract's done. He seems to be looking like maybe the Matheus that we saw pre-Christmas. I think he's full of confidence again. He wants to be the star of the show. Although again, yesterday I think there were times where he maybe tried a little bit too hard for that. But what you can't take away from him is that quality. And once again, he came very, very close to the free kick in the first half. But the quality of finish there to get us back in the game. Lovely little flick from Jord and Fin. But that quality of finish is unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, he's another level. And if that set release clause is true, we're going to have to work wonders with 62.5 million to replace him in aggregate. That's if anyone wants to come to a Cunha-less Wolves. And it's annoying, really. Would you have rather have lost 2-0 yesterday than than him do that on a big stage again, because it just adds more suitors. But yeah, he's another level. I think it's sort of, we've had 2 cycles this season, haven't we? Where I remember before that really good patch, his first good patch of the season. There's a few games before where he just wasn't running, what it looked like he wasn't bothered, and then went into that brilliant run again. Then we had the few contract games, the Goth in PE games, as they will now be known, and then he seems to come out the other side of that, and he looks fantastic. So yeah, it's one of those where he's just the next one off the conveyor belt, isn't he? Where it's enjoying while we've got him. Or hopefully he has a second Neto season and we might be able to get him back the season after, like it might look like with him. But yeah, there's a sadness to it. Like, he scored that goal, I was like, oh, I'm going to miss this. But yeah, fantastic. On his weak foot as well. Sold him with a fake shot. It's just, another level.
Yeah, we've got to win the FA Cup now, so we get Europe and he stays. That's just the only thing that can happen, really. But Jord, even his work rate, and again, Gary O'Neill commented on it, Vitor commented on it, the defensive work rate of him. But again, yesterday I saw him absolutely running his bollocks off to get back and defend as well. You know, the legs, the energy, and the fight that he was showing. It's much better. It's what we've missed off him probably. That's, like I said, that Arsenal Chelsea game was a little bit of a worry, but even against Blackburn, he did it. It's much more impressive.
Yeah, on the whole, yeah. I think there was a time, sort of the back end of the first half, and even moments before we scored, where he was doing occasionally his hands in the air, and I think some of the in the way, and definitely some frustrations. People saying like, "Fucking here he goes again," sort of thing. But as soon as he scored, like that completely stopped. And I think there's this thing, like, he's a maverick. He's our maverick. He's our anything that we do good tends to go through him at some point. And I think now there's sort of like almost like an expectation, and he brought it on himself, where that every time he gets the ball, everyone's expecting magic, and it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen that way, because it can't, right? And I think going back to even talking about his release clause and all that sort of stuff, the reason why he signed it was because the new deal was because he wanted a fair exit strategy of, like, if a big team comes in for me, like, I want the ability to be able to have a chat with them. Yes, we could. I think we definitely could have got 70, 80 for him in that clause. But the only thing I would say is, with the 62.5 million, there's still only certain clubs that can afford that money when it comes to the summer. And with PSR and all that sort of stuff, I would imagine that within that 62.5 million, it'll be, we want 62.5 million, but it's got to be paid in full.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there's still things that we don't know behind the, as fans. And why would we? That's legal complications. I think we're getting sort of worried a little bit about the price tag, but if we can get the funds in full for him, and that's sort of a stipulation. And again, I'm playing devil's advocate here with PSR and stuff. I'm not sure who could really go out and do it. Like, you even know, like Man United. I know you could probably look into it and see it, that they're making redundancies and all that sort of stuff. But like, Man United are apparently really struggling with PSR. Aston Villa are like 97% of their turnover is on wages at the moment. So Aston Villa couldn't go for him. These teams that have been linked with him, like Arsenal, I think Arsenal need more of a 9 than they do a Cunha type. So I'm looking round. Like, I don't actually know if there's that many suitors. A, first of all, that could afford him with PSR restriction, and B, like, where do we think? I know we think we could go and play anywhere, but I'm not sure there's that many teams that would go in and pay, that need him in the summer, sort of thing. I'm really struggling as to sort of where he's going to go and play.
Forest could go for him, but they'd have to get Europe. I just think it's such a underwhelming move for him. No disrespect to them.
Do you
know, but also, like,
Neto
he has
got
to say
at Forest.
Yeah, he has also got to say yes. I still think, like, and again, I could be being fickle here. Like, I think if, like, say Forest coming for him, and it's the money, just say Forest coming for him, and off the, like, I think Cunha goes, you know what? Yeah, they're a big club. They are a big club historically, and they're doing well. They've got Europe, like, but actually, if you look over the last sort of 10, 15, 20 years, like, Wolves and Forest have been very much, well, we've been better than them, other than this season. So it's like, does Nottingham Forest excite someone like Cunha? No. And I think in his head, I think he's thinking, right, I want to go and play for Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Man United even.
You could go abroad as well, like
Barca,
PSG, Real
all
Madrid,
this.
yeah, you know.
And it's like, but again, like I think all these have got complications when it comes to finance in terms of their own battles. And you know, you didn't say Real Madrid. Like, if you hypothetically speaking, he goes to Real Madrid. God,
Well,
like
I
how
don't know
many
if he
players?
will, 'cause of
They've already got that many
because
players
the
in those
Atleti
sort of
link as well.
positions.
Actually, I don't know, but well,
Yeah, but I just think like we've got to. I think I know it's a low fee in terms of what we think as Wolves fans, but I still don't think it means he's definitely going to go in the summer because I don't think there's a definitive right. He's definitely going to go there. Like
yeah.
I think with PSR it's going to be a problem for a lot of teams.
Yeah,
I think we
if it were
thought that
no,
with Neto.
if it was
wouldn't
purely
he, Chelsea
tactics,
game?
he'd fit Man United like a glove, wouldn't he? With it's basically the same system that we're playing, so that'd probably be the one. But yeah, as you say, they'd have to flog Mainu Garnacho to even get near that, probably.
Well, I like the optimism, Jord. Well, to be fair, we said it with Neves, didn't we?
Yeah,
and
we did.
and probably Neto, they stayed a lot longer than what we expected. So we'll wait and see. And I think the key is, I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Bruno Lage said it in regards to, if you want to keep your best players, you've got to buy good players to play around them. And I think if there are guarantees from Fosun that they're going to change how they're going to run things, and they are going to put money into it and back Vitor or whoever is in charge in the summer, then fair enough. But we'll wait and see. Talking of former Wolves players, Diogo Jota is a talk amongst fans as well. That the penalty in the second half, which was given against Agbadou, which was then overturned by VAR. Finn, what are your thoughts on this? Because I think as top players, and I sort of go back to what Diaz did in the first half, he knew sort of when Sarr was bearing down on him, he knew what to expect. I think as top players, regardless of whether they played for Wolves or not, they're top players because, yes, they're good footballers, but also they do know how to bend the rules and get the better out of referees sometimes. I genuinely thought they were going to, I thought it was a stinker by the referee, but I thought they were going to stick with that decision because there was minimal contact. There was a little bit of contact. I thought it's not a dive. And is it clear enough to overturn it? In the end, I watched it a number of times. I think Jota's going down before Agbadou even slides. So I think they have made the right decision there. But what are your takes on people getting really frustrated, saying how disrespectful Jota is to his former club and so on? Because at the end of the day, he's a Liverpool player. I don't think he's going to care about, his affinity to Wolves in that moment.
Yeah, I've always been it hurt me a little bit. I've always been a sort of Jota applauder ever since he's left. I think he's been pretty unproblematic as Wolves exits go. Sounds like from stuff that comes out that Nuno didn't want him to go, and he didn't cause a fuss, and it's just a great opportunity for him. And he's playing for Liverpool now, and you have seen the rumours that they might be flogging him, but I think he's been largely pretty good at Liverpool, injuries aside. So it hurt me a little bit at the time. I thought, from my angle, I thought he'd wiped him out. So I thought, yeah, clear penalty, and then was really, really shocked that it'd gone to VAR. And then you watch it, and then someone got it up on their phone in the crowd, and I think, was it at 2-0? It was at 2-0, wasn't it? Yeah. And someone did go, imagine doing that to your old club at 2-0. You're not embarrassed. It wasn't like an anger towards him. It was sort of like, oh, come on, mate. It was a dive. I know Jamie Carragher used every word in the thesaurus apart from dive. He tried to get around it, but he's dived. I wasn't particularly angry. Yeah, it was just a little bit of a laugh watching it back, and he convinced me in the moment. But yeah, I'd say I'm 5% less likely to applaud him next time. That's probably what it's done to me.
Yeah, and then obviously you go back to Simon Hooper didn't book him for simulation either. So that's if it's not a foul.
Is it a rule though? Can you give a yellow from a?
I saw. So apparently he could, because there's that. What's the guy on Twitter that does all, the
Dale
ESPN,
Johnson.
Dale Johnson. He said that apparently, retrospectively for simulation, you can get a booking for it. So if that is in the rule, see, I didn't think that was a rule, because I thought anything that was on VAR you couldn't
had to be red or nothing.
People, red or nothing sort of thing. But apparently for simulation you can.
Do you think it was a dive though? Because there is some contact from Agbadou, isn't it?
I'll be
Jota
honest.
Invites it.
Is that?
I'll be honest. When the challenge come in. Well, when the challenge come in the ground, I was like, "Oh, fucking hell!"
It's one of them.
You're like, "Fucking hell, what's he doing?" And then I thought Agbadou was sort of faking his injury, which I'm sure is something we're gonna. Because I thought he thinks he's gonna get sent off here, and even even when he
It
come
was all
round, when
booking, yeah.
he overturned it, Simon Hooper, like I think Semedo ran over to him, like tapping him, and going, "No, you can get up now," and he was like literally just in agony. So he's like, "Oh, actually, he's actually done himself in." But I haven't seen it back, to be honest with you, to
Are you
say if
watching it
it
back
was
now,
a.
Finn? Or are you on something else?
Yeah, sorry, and then I've
Oh
just
no, I was
screenshotted it.
gonna say, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure there wasn't much, and Jota invited. He's going down, but my only thinking is that he didn't book him for simulation is because there's still some sort of contact there, but
But
not enough to be given a penalty, obviously.
but then, my interpretation of VAR and the rules would be if you've then got to stick with the on-field. If you think
Yeah,
you've either got to book him for simulation or you
or it's a
stay with
penalty.
what you've got. In my
Yeah,
Yeah.
opinion, I'm not. And
mm.
again, look, I'm not advocating it was a penalty. I'm glad it wasn't a penalty, but I'm saying I'd imagine it's one or the other. Like, I don't know
Mm.
how you can say, oh, he's dived. Oh, it's not a penalty. He's dived or
Yeah.
made
No,
a
I know
meal
what
of
you
it and
mean.
then not booked him, because it's like, well, you've got to do one or the other, in my opinion.
Are
Go on,
you saying
Finn.
the
What do you think?
shoulder, Dave? I can't. There's no. There's, like the lunge. There's no contact. Maybe his shoulder brushes it, but I don't
Oh
think there's
yeah,
any. Is there?
that's maybe what I thought. As he was going down, I think it may be his arm. And that's my only thing is, but it's still inviting the contact. It's still simulation as such, I
Oh,
suppose.
completely.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, we saw that with Jota when he played for us, though. He knew what he was doing, and that's why he was a
yeah.
shithouse, and that's why a lot of Wolves fans still hold him in high regard and love him. But
We were debating that in the away end. I was trying to think if he'd ever dive for. I remember in the championship
He did
he
get
used to
booked.
get
He got
battered,
booked.
didn't he?
He got
yeah,
booked
he
a
used to
couple of
get
times. He
kicked
did, I think.
around in the championship, yeah. But yeah, he definitely did like a tumble every now and then. Like, he invited a few challenges, invited a few fouls, should I say,
Yeah.
himself. But yeah,
That,
like, going back to it, like in the ground, no complaint. It just looked like he'd just been
Yeah.
completely wiped out, and I thought
Same.
Agbadou was getting a red card for it. So
yeah.
So he's
It would
got
have
a
been.
talent there.
uh,
Jota, he deceived me.
Yeah. No. I mean, like I said, the second half was good from Wolves. Probably did enough to and deserved to get something out of the game. It would have been so nice to have got at least a point because it would have given us that 3 point cushion on the bottom three. And it literally is that mini league now. It's us and I'm not going to include Southampton in it because I think they're long gone. But us, Ipswich and Leicester now. I think West Ham are above us and what they're sort of 8 or 9 points ahead of us. So it's very much that mini league now. And I think a point giving us that 3 points, we've got a much superior goal difference. It would have been nice, but we move on to next week, which is a tough away trip to Bournemouth. Before we move on to that, though, lads, I want to touch on two things. I haven't had a chance to talk about it on a video or anything on the channel yet. It's the situation surrounding Craig Dawson and obviously Nelson Semedo. Jord, we'll start off with Craig Dawson. Left out the registration for the Premier League squad, which pretty much means he's going to get moved on. I don't know. It's a little bit weird because I think even short term, I would still keep him on my registered list because there's room for him. It's not like Wolves had to take people out to put him in. I mean, you were under the impression that sort of way before this news broke, he'd stopped training at Compton anyway. I mean, you told me a long time ago.
yeah, so I got told. I'm trying to think of the dates now. So it come out in the Express and Star Friday, didn't it? Right, I think it was. I think that's when it got broke at the press conference. But it was the weekend before. Sort of, I got told around, like, apparently the day before he'd cleared his locker out, if you want to call it that, and was no longer going to be at Compton. But I obviously kept that between ourselves because there was no confirmation and didn't want to put anything false online where they hadn't got that. And I just thought it was an interesting one because when it comes to then the squad registration, like, the only reason why I think Wolves would say, like, the mutually terminated his contract or is no longer going to be part of the plans would be that he's actually got a move lined up overseas because
Yeah,
he can't sign for another English team, right? I don't
correct.
think, or even
Yeah.
might even be British team.
Mm.
Until sort of the next transfer window. So, and knowing sort of bits that you know about Craig Dawson, like, he's very family orientated. Family still living like the Manchester, Rochdale area. Even when he's at West Ham, he was travelling down for training. So I can't imagine an overseas move is something that he's got on the horizon. So even for me, like, we can't just shake hands and we're not going to pay him. Like, I think fans are saying, oh well, we've got him off the wage bill and stuff. I've seen online, like, there's no way Craig Dawson walks away for free. Like, we're
No,
still
of
probably
course you'd have
paying
to
him.
pay him off.
We've paid him out his contract. So for the fact that we're paying out his contract still, and the fact his contract would have probably expired June 1st, let's say, or whatever it would have been, um, I struggle to understand what the rationale is that you just wouldn't keep him. around.
Yeah.
Even if you say to him, look, like, come and train a couple times a week, just tick over. You're not even going to be part of match day squads, but if we need you in a crisis, you're there, sort of thing. Because I still think he's got something to offer to see out games for like the last 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, no, I
Like,
agree.
so it's just a bit of a strange one for me that it's gone about that, unless we hear in like the next week or so that he's going off to America, Saudi, or wherever he could, could end up in. I just don't think Craig Dawson will do that. So yeah, for the fact that he's going to be sitting on his arse for the next few months until next season, if he still wants to get back in a team and get back playing football, we should have just kept hold of him, in my opinion, not knowing all the
Yeah, I
all the
think as
background on it.
a squad option for sure. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say he should be starting or should be, one of the first names on the team sheet. But I do wonder if something has gone on behind the scenes because my concern is there. You're losing Dawson. Chances probably you lose Sarabia, Nelson Semedo. We talk about Cunha may well go. You've got 4 pretty influential and big leaders there in the squad that could move on in the summer. But it does make me wonder if something has gone on behind the scenes. Vitor is honest, sometimes probably too honest, and he's obviously spoken to Craig Dawson. I do wonder what effect that has had on him, but interesting to see what happens with him in his future because Wolves, you would imagine, he's still going to be on a fairly decent whack fin. I don't know. I mean, what your take? What's your take on it? It's strange. I think it's just strange to leave him out that squad registration unless he's got something in the pipeline.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. As soon as I saw it, was like, okay, well, he's the one they've sacrificed to make room for the others. And then you thought, hang on, he's homegrown. It doesn't make any sense. There'd be room for him because we're not exactly, we haven't got an abundance of English or homegrown players. So from what I've heard, they don't see eye to eye. And I think the initial thing was the lack of communication that seemed to rub him up the wrong way. And then when there has been communication, obviously hasn't gone too well. But yeah, baffled. And there's so many of these where I just think Wolves haven't, if you take off our gold spectacles, that he made such a difference when he came in that January and how they dealt with maybe the Cody one. I know it's different groups of people altogether, but just that sort of, you don't want that word of mouth that Wolves are chucking people by the wayside when they're not wanted anymore. And I know it's only a couple of cases and there's teams that do more than us and it's a business at the end of the day, but yeah, it just doesn't quite sit right with me that he might now have that sort of tarnished view of Wolves. And he hasn't been as good this season. He's still in a few games been good. The Everton game, which was probably one of his last appearances, wasn't it? He was really, really poor, but overall he's been fantastic. So yeah, strange one. And as you say, if Agbadou's out now, if another one drops down with a hamstring, you might be struggling for centre backs, and you've got a Premier League, albeit declining, but a Premier League level centre backs out there doing nothing. Weird. So something must have gone on, mustn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Semedo's another one as well. Now, as it stands, of course, his contract is up at the end of the season. Liam Keane and the Express and Style podcast spoke about this quite a little bit last week. The situation is ideally that the club want to keep him. Vitor in his pre-match press conference was really vocal about wanting to keep him and how happy he's with his leadership and so on. But at the moment, it sounds like it's a financial decision because Nelson is probably one of the top earners at the club. Wolves, in an ideal world, will probably want to put him on a slightly lower deal, but there's not many walks in life where you're going to accept a new contract somewhere on less money. And Jord, I think at the age that he's at, he's probably going to have suitors, whether it's back in his homeland of Portugal, MLS, Saudi. Wolves, if they genuinely want to keep him, they're probably going to have to match, if not increase his wage, aren't they? And I suppose as a captain, that's probably what you'd expect as well.
100%. And I think Nelson Semedo is far better than playing for 17th place team in the Premier League, full stop, whatever his age is, right? So I think that's first of all something to think about at the moment. And like say, I think he's like 31 now, 30, 31. He's got one big contract left. Let's be honest, probably one big contract left in him, and he's going to have options. And it's not even when it comes to the free agency when it comes to free agency as well. What you've got to compete with is that some of these clubs can offer him a 3, 4, 5, however many million as a signing on bonus as well. That'll go straight into his back pocket once he's paid his agent and whatever else he needs to do, management teams. So it's not just as simple as saying to Nelson Semedo, "Oh, we'll keep you on the same wage, he's 3 years at the same money, and everyone's happy," because he's probably leaving 3, 4, 5 million quid on the table. So if they really want to make a play for him and keep him, they're probably going to have to give him a pay rise and some sort of bonus to do that. First of all, I was shocked that Nelson Semedo kicked the ball for us this year. I think I said I thought he'd be gone. I think there's rumours in the summer that there was suitors. And I just think how the season's gone. Yeah, he's been made a captain now. I think he's quite settled in the area. I just think that he's better than this situation and scenario. So I don't begrudge him going. If he says he's going, great. Not great, but fine. And he's definitely someone that I'd want to keep around. I think he's a very, very good defender. And I think he's come in with all the shit that was going around with Lamina and the captaincy and stuff. I actually think he's come in, and we've been better with Semedo as captain. It might be down to Pereira as well in tactics,
he's quite
but
calm.
I think
he's not as erratic as I've known. Like you see, I was a little bit worried that he'd be maybe too quiet, but the way he communicates with the referees and Vitor's made it pretty clear that he's been good behind the scenes as well. I think he's quite calm, isn't he? He's not as emotional, let's say, as maybe the other guys that you've mentioned there.
Yeah, and like I say, if it was down to 90% of the Wolves fans, I think everyone would say give him a 3-year deal, give him because I think we'll struggle to get better than Semedo in our current situation. That's the problem.
It's interesting, Finn, that Pedro Lima got some minutes yesterday as well. I do wonder if now that's an indication that between now and the end of the season, we're going to start seeing Pedro bled into the first team a lot more because, we know that he was going to be a long-term signing, but probably a long-term replacement for Nelson Semedo. But, I mean, it wouldn't surprise us, would it, to see him get more and more minutes throughout the rest of the season? I mean, he played... What was it against United? Was it in the league? And I thought he played really well. I think it was United, wasn't it? Yeah. So I think we may well see him get some more opportunities between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, I thought he'd have had a few more minutes, to be fair, and especially with the whole choosing Wolves over Chelsea to be in the World Cup squad, that doesn't seem to have worked out. Bless him. No. So yeah, I thought we'd have seen more of him, and like you were saying with Giga, it was bringing him on at Anfield. He sort of had that one. Did he have that one pass and he just sort of spooned it to nowhere? So maybe not the best time to give him some minutes under pressure late on at Anfield. But yeah, minutes regardless. I really like the look of him. So hopefully that is one. And Semedo is the Wolves captain. So by law, you do have to leave at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's just captain, the rules. So, what's happened? That'll be 4 consecutive years, will it, where that's happened now?
Yeah.
Cody, Kilman, Nevers, and then Semedo potentially.
Lamina two in one season.
Yeah.
Double trouble.
Yeah. So I thought it interesting, obviously, to get our thoughts on that, lads. To finish off quickly as well, let's have some questions. Gully, who's obviously part of the Talking Wolves team, using from Molyneux, says it's not really a question; it's a statement, and we'll see if we agree with it. Gone under the radar for me how well Andre and João Gomes properly ruffled Gravenberch and McAllister's feathers. We had the better midfield on the pitch yesterday, and I think Jord. I know it's so easy to see because we're watching Wolves every week, every minute. And we have waxed lyrical really since Andre's properly broken back into the team. But it's good. The battles like yesterday, I know we didn't get anything out of the game, but it's good battles and a really good test for those players. And the fact that our boys came out on top is really promising.
Yeah, and I remember weeks ago when me and Joe both said about putting Andre and Gomez up against most Premier League midfields, and we'd come out on top, and then people in the comments were saying, "Oh, what about Tommy Doyle?" Well, I think he's actually showing now that actually Andre and Gomez as a pair will stack up against most midfields, and I think, like Gully said, Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai, that midfield three is as good as anything you can get in Europe, let alone the league. And I thought they certainly won the midfield battle in the second half.
Yeah.
And I just think they're just like Gomez he breaks the play up so well.
I think he's getting better.
He's now started he's driving forward a little bit more now with the ball. Seems to be able to have a bit more freedom than what he had before. And I think Pereira just allows him to go and just impact the game wherever he can, up and down wherever he can impact it, go and win your balls. Andre just gives you that sort of just a bit of calmness in there. Like he gets the ball. He very rarely wastes a pass. Like yeah. I'd love to know even yesterday sort of his pass completion, because I reckon it's got to be sort of low 90s yesterday. I can't remember him misplacing a pass yesterday, and I love the pair of them. And again, going back to it, that's a big reason why I don't think we will go down this year, because I just think there's factors why I think we'll finish above Leicester and Ipswich, but that's probably number one, if not number two, behind the fact that we've got Cunha, is that those two in midfield are just far superior to a Leicester and Ipswich's midfield, in my opinion.
No, I agree. Chris said, surely there's a relegation release clause in Matt's relegation clause in Matt's contract where he has to stay on the podcast if we go down instead of making curries. Well, Matt doesn't even go to the matches whilst we're in the Premier League, so I don't know what would happen if we go down to the Championship. But no, for people that I'm sure he'll talk about it in when he's back on. But Matt's going to be stepping away from talking Wolves from next season to focus on other things. But I'm sure we'll still see him on the podcast throughout the season on the odd occasion as well. Dave DH writes, he says, how do we, in brackets, try to replace Cunha when he goes? Seems an almost impossible task. I think we mentioned that earlier, but he's a player of such quality. But I mean, I suppose we probably said it about Neves. To a degree, we would have said it about Neto, although maybe we haven't replaced him like for like. But in terms of quality, I think it's a monumental task to replace someone that good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same again, isn't it? You've replaced Neves by taking risks out of Brazil, and they've both been fantastic. Just like we were saying, then it would be incredible if a team got relegated with, say, Cunha was in the 10. That could be Brazil's midfield three, couldn't it, Andre?
Literally, yeah.
Gomez, Cunha could get relegated with it. It's insane. So I think you take. I mean, it's Football Manager, isn't it? You pick up 6-10 million wonder kids, a Fluminense, a River Plate, and hope three of them come off, I suppose. So I think that's the only way you do it, because even if you did want to go, right, okay, here's 60 million for someone else, who's going to come to Wolves with the projected season? Like next season, it'll be okay, right? Relegation dogfight again. So yeah, you can't do it that way. I think that's our only real option. You're not going to. I mean, you could do. I don't. Yeah, I think that's the only option really, unless you see anything else. You maybe take a risk on someone out the Championship. I mean, Palace seem to do that well, and a couple others, but I think you look for those gems that we can nurture through. Because Cunha wasn't pulling up trees, was he? Albeit he'd made it to Atletico Madrid, like he'd had a decent career, Leipzig, Madrid, but yeah, you either find a good player down on his luck, or grab a few, go around Portugal with a net like we used to do.
There's a lad at Chelsea struggling a little bit, a winger as well, that we might be able to possibly.
Jota and Neto, get him back.
Yeah, I know. Basing it on the this is quite a long-winded question. Basing it on the scenario of staying up, who do you guys think would be sold or let go in the summer? I mean, obviously we tend to do our sell, loan, keep series at the end of the season, but I mean, very quickly, I think Sarabia moves on because he's got on a free anyway. Although obviously been given more opportunities. Dawson will be gone, or will go as well. What's your consensus on Semedo, lads? Because I've got a feeling he might move on as well, to be completely honest.
Oh, I think
if we got relegated,
of staying up, that is.
Oh, staying up. So I was going to say, yeah, he ain't staying in the Championship.
Yeah,
he goes.
He's going full stop. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think prophecy, Dave. He's wearing the armband. He's off.
Yeah, I don't know. In terms of any other surprises, to be fair, I think the surprise could be Jord. I think there is a universe as well where Cunha does stay. I think I'm with you there.
Like I say, I just think I think there is. Like I say, it comes down to it's just PSR just seems to be such a problem for a lot of these teams now. So even like now, Man City, they've just spent 200. Like, I don't think Cunha's a Man City type of player anyway. Personally, and I don't think Pep would want him. I think he'd like coach it out of him. So I think, like I just look around. Like Liverpool don't really need that sort of ilk. They've got enough of those sort of inverted inside forward players. Arsenal's an interesting one, but again, it sounds like they're going all out after Isak, and if they go and get Isak, they can't get Cunha, and then vice versa. Newcastle, if they do sell Isak, I don't think Cunha's the replacement for Isak, if that makes sense. I think, again, he plays more of sort of where Gordon would play. So, I think Cunha, there's a realm where Cunha could stay. For me, I would sell Aitnery if we got a good money for him this window coming up, because
I think João Gomez might go as well, to be honest.
Possibly. I mean, hopefully we can keep them two for him and Andre together for a full season. Yeah. But yeah, I foresee like this is probably. So I don't think Aitnery's been as good this season. I think that's a fair comment to say, and I think actually Rodrigo Gomez has more than shown like he could go out there and play there.
Hugo Bueno as well.
Hugo Bueno's coming back potentially as well, and I think if you got offered 40 million for Aitnery this window, I think that's decent business, really. to be able to go and invest in the team. But I think there's got to be a bit of a circuit break at Wolves. Like you say, if in these realms of possibly we sell a Cunha or Aitnery, like say we get 100 million to spend in the summer, like you've got players that you've got to get players that want to come. And this whole we're just going to exist in the Premier League and all this sort of stuff. That's not a good USP for anyone. So I generally think Fosen realised they fucked up a little bit, and that's why we've got some money in January to the point of we're going to keep him in the league. But I think they've got to look at it, and I think it was Johnny Phillips said it, or that actually I think they're trying to re-look at actually what they're going to do moving forward, because you can't just try and survive in the Premier League because you will get swallowed up. You've got to keep pushing. You've got to keep spending money, because if you stand still, you're fucked. Ultimately.
Yeah. No, I agree. Richard Fletcher, he said, "What's happened to Finn?" Well, there you go. Richard's here. I used to like his vlogs and his contributions to the pod. Has he given up on Wolves now? Finn probably goes to more games than all of us, to be honest. So
he does, yeah.
He's just a busy boy. But no, it's good to have Finn back on the podcast as well. Last two questions, lads. This one's I read this one earlier. I didn't know whether to mention it. Do you find recent Wolves fans who've only ever seen us in the Prem annoying? By that I mean they don't seem to appreciate that we are currently going through a golden period. Sorry, especially given our last 40 odd years. It's an interesting one, this one, because I think a core of the sort of new fans now are predominantly Americans, and I've had mixed experience with them. I would say a good 95% of the new American fans are sort of willing to listen to the podcast. We have a lot of them listen to the podcast and willing to learn about the club and old players and so on, which is great. However, there are still, I'm saying it is a minority, there are a handful of fans that you could tell that they haven't watched this team or don't understand certain players, but have got adamant, and their opinion's the only opinion that there is, and so on. So, like I said, I've got time. I have a lot of Americans in my DMs, some of which that are so switched on with Wolves news and stuff like that, and or asking my opinion on stuff. But there are still some out there. I mean, Finn, you probably had with the Mexicans and stuff, but you probably had a lot of fans abroad contact you when you were doing the vlogs as well.
Yeah, they were amazing, but it was fascinating to see them when Raul wasn't playing as well, how they
we used to have a Mexican turn on us, a little bit.
No,
like
never on me. They're all sound with me.
No, yeah, but on our podcast,
and stuff is class.
If you like we've mentioned with Cunha, and you sort of pick out faults in his game because he's the number one guy. There was a guy that if we didn't mention how good Jimenez was, he used to comment on the podcast and go mad at us, saying he's so disrespectful. And then he actually commented at the start of the year where Raul started scoring a few goals. See how grateful you were. Look how well he's doing now. I was like, okay. So
yeah, I'm still cooking. I think next year with the World Cup, I'm cooking a little Mexico visit. I think it's long overdue. Well, I've done Cancun, but most of the Mexicans then inform me that isn't properly Mexico.
No, that's spring break.
Yeah. So I'd like to do that next year. I still speak to his brother, so that'd be cool to go and see him play. But yeah, I've absolutely loved them all the way through. But yeah, it was just when Raul wasn't as good, they didn't turn on me. They seemed to turn on him. It was mad. It was like, God, crazy.
But like I said, it's the minority for me. Like a lot of the guys, predominantly the guys in America, that there's a lot that comment on the podcast and speak on social media. They'll all be good, but there is a small minority of them that are a little bit jarring. And we'll finish off with Amar's Music Show. If we avoid relegation and win the FA Cup, where do you think this season would rank in the order of most successful since we've been back in the Premier League? So obviously, Wolves have got Bournemouth in a couple of weeks in the FA Cup, probably one of the most underwhelming FA Cup ties that we could have had. Frustrating. I think it's got to be up there, though. I mean, if we stay up and we win the FA Cup, that's going to be, in our generation, probably one of the best seasons ever, surely, Jord?
It's the best season ever, isn't it? Yeah. We got an FA Cup, surely. I know we had the semi-final against Watford. There was a semi-final back in '98 as well, which I remember watching. When we lost to Arsenal 1-0 at Villa Park. Yeah, for me, silverware over anything is sort of imperative. And I think when it comes to these Bournemouth games, I know we got Fulham at home wedged in between them. For me, speaking candidly, I would take losing 5-0 on the weekend to beat Bournemouth the week after in the Cup, as it stands right now. I know that sounds daft, but generally, I just think we want the Cup. We want win that. We're in a quarter final, so it's it's
win that.
everything like and win that you're at Wembley and then win that. Get a dodgy decision, win that, you're in the final. But no, I just think it's one of those things like we're in football for trophies, so like it's got it'd be amazing, it'd be incredible. Yeah, I think it would be the best season of our my lifetime at 33.
Yeah.
So it must be the same for you guys, being a few years younger than me.
Just a few. Yeah.
Just a few.
No, I agree. I think it'd be. I'm sort of getting PTSD though. I think if we got into the semi-final and you've got to go back to Wembley, I'm like, oh, do I really want to go back there? But
I had a look at,
Got a
and
chance.
again, this is me just being a dreamer. I had a look at the FA Cup fixtures, and I'm meant to be in Abu Dhabi for the final, and I'm worried like, oh, we might need to move that. And Emma's like,
What's
she's
happened
like,
to the old
she's
Jordan
like,
Russell, who was like the most negative guy I've met, and now the most optimistic and positive Wolves fan? What's going on?
I don't know. It's a
I
change
had-
of heart. I think it's this new internet.
The Vitor.
I was meant to be on holiday for the provisional game if we beat Coventry. So I had a holiday booked and I'd have been away, and then literally went 2-1 up. I'm going, all right, I'll see how much it's going to cost to cancel it. I look up again, it's bang bang. Oh, never mind. We're going on holiday.
Heartbreak. But no, who knows? I mean, Bournemouth is a tough game, but I know they've had a great season. I still back us. We can play the way
we've actually got a good record there as well, haven't we? In terms of since we've been in the Premier League, and I know it's a different team under Iraola, but I've got a feeling as well. I don't know what it is.
I got a feeling. There we go. Right, boys, that is all for the podcast. Now, I really enjoyed it, lads. Thanks for joining me. Obviously, you can catch us everywhere on the socials at Talking Walls everywhere. Finish off, Jord, as well. Where can people find you if they wish?
So Jord was 7 on Twitter and Instagram.
Perfect. And Finn, what about you?
Finn is everywhere. FINERRZ. I've got several Simon Hooper saved drafts that didn't go on Twitter yesterday, which probably for the good of everybody. But yeah, over there.
I had somebody quickly. I commented on Simon Hooper's performance, and I think I'd assume he was an Arsenal fan. He's like, or a Liverpool fan. You weren't saying anything when Michael Edwards dropped a stinker last week. And I said, who's Michael Edwards? And he said something about my mother, and I pressed, and he blocked me. He was a proper stranger. I said, no. He started getting all sweary. I said, mate, who the F's Michael Edwards? What are you on about? Obviously knowing he meant Michael Oliver. So yeah, it got some strange traction yesterday anyway. But yeah, like I said, at Talking Walls everywhere. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. If you are listening on Spotify and Apple, leave us a 5-star review. And if you're listening or watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel. But until next week, enjoy yourselves, look after yourselves, and we'll catch you on the next one.